We're going to tune into the most complex, most fascinating machine in the known universe, and it's right inside your head. We're talking about your brain.
Just think about that for a second. What if you could actually listen to the raw electrical chatter of your own thoughts, your decisions, your memories, as they happen? I know it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but it's way closer to reality than you might think.
See, your brain is just this universe of constant, crackling electrical signals. It's a silent conversation happening between billions and billions of neurons. And those tiny little waveforms you're looking at, that's not just random noise. That is the language of your mind.
All right, so how do we listen in on this incredible neural conversation? Well, scientists have this remarkable tool, and it basically acts like a super sensitive microphone for the brain. It's called EEG.
Okay, the full name is electroencephalography, which is a mouthful, so let's just stick with EEG. The amazing thing is that it's a totally non-invasive window into what your brain is doing in real time. It's not sending anything into your brain. It's simply listening to the tiny electrical voltages that your brain cells are already producing, naturally.
So how does it all work? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. First, a special cap with a bunch of electrodes gets placed on your head. And to make sure the results are consistent from person to person, scientists use this standardized map called the 10-20 system to know exactly where to put them. Then, these super-sensitive electrodes pick up on that faint electrical hum from your neurons. Now, these signals are incredibly weak, so they get amplified thousands of times and then recorded as those wavy lines we all recognize as brainwaves.
Now, you've probably heard of other brain scanners, right? Like fMRI, which gives us those incredible 3D maps of brain activity. So why would we use EEG? Well, it's all about what question you're trying to answer. While fMRI is fantastic at telling you where something is happening in the brain, EEG's superpower is telling you when. Its timing is unbelievable. It can track brain activity down to the millisecond. It captures the speed of thought.
But you know, capturing all that brain activity at once creates a pretty big challenge. How do you find one specific, meaningful signal in all of that noise? And this brings us to an even more refined technique.
Think about it like this. Raw EEG is kind of like sticking a microphone in the middle of a packed football stadium. You can hear the overall roar, you feel the excitement, you get all that ambient noise, but there's no way you can make out a single conversation. Your brain is a lot like that stadium. Billions of neurons are all talking at the same time.
So the huge question for researchers is, how can we possibly filter out that constant background roar to hear the one specific voice or thought but we're actually interested in? How do you isolate the brain's reaction to just one thing?
Well, the answer is this really clever technique called event-related potentials, or ERPs. You can think of it as a way of telling everyone in that stadium to all shout the exact same thing at the exact same moment. An ERP is that tiny electrical response from the brain that is locked in time to a specific event, like say seeing a photo or hearing a sound. By isolating that one shared shout, we can finally hear that single voice in the crowd.
So how do we find that voice? I know this looks a little complex, but the idea is actually super simple. Imagine you show someone the same picture over and over and over again. That top line, that's the noisy, raw EEG for just one of those times. But when you layer hundreds of those moments on top of each other and you average them out, all that random background chatter just cancels itself out. And what are you left with? That clear, distinct spike. That is the brain's specific, consistent response to seeing that picture. That's how we isolate the signature of a single thought. It's brilliant.
And being able to pinpoint brain activity like this isn't just some cool academic exercise. It is leading to some seriously powerful real-world applications that are literally changing people's lives.
I mean, the applications are just incredibly diverse. In the clinic, EEG is absolutely essential for diagnosing conditions like epilepsy because it can spot those abnormal electrical bursts of a seizure. It's also used to see how a brain is recovering after a stroke, to study how kids' brains develop, and even to dig into complex conditions like ADHD. And then you get to the really futuristic stuff, like powering brain-computer interfaces and this mind-bending technique called neurofeedback therapy. Let's talk about that neurofeedback, because it is just fascinating. This quote describes a system where a patient is watching a movie, but the picture is all blurry. The system is monitoring their brainwaves in real time, and only when their brain produces a specific, healthier pattern of activity does the picture snap into focus. They are literally learning to consciously control their own brain activity. How cool is that?
So when you boil it all down, EEG acts as this vital bridge. It connects the biological hardware of our brain, the neurons and the electrical signals,
to the complex software of our minds, our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors.
But the story doesn't stop here. Not at all. The ability of this technology to decode our brains is evolving at a pretty breathtaking pace, and that's thanks to a powerful new partner.
And that partner is artificial intelligence. The human brain generates a staggering amount of data, way too much for any single person to analyze. But when you feed all that complex EEG data into different AI models, they can learn to spot these incredibly subtle patterns that are just invisible to the human eye. I mean, look at this table. Researchers are already using AI to tell the difference between the brain waves of healthy people and those with Alzheimer's, and they're getting up to 94% accuracy. That is a total game changer for early diagnosis.
So, what does all this really mean for our future? Well, this powerful team-up of EEG and AI is opening a completely new frontier in medicine. It's pointing to a future where we can detect devastating neurological diseases way earlier and maybe even develop personalized treatments that are tailored to an individual's unique brain activity.
You know, we started this by asking if we could listen to the brain think. And I think it's pretty clear that the answer is yes, we can. And the technology is only getting more and more powerful every single day. So it leaves us with this final, tantalizing question. As we get better and better at translating this intricate electrical symphony, what other secrets of the mind are we going to unlock? What conversations will we be able to understand next?